So this is how it all started. My wife Jessica and I had planned to go to a concert of one of her favorite musicians, Bobby Starr. Bobby was a legend in the rock world, known for his electrifying performances and charismatic presence. Jessica had been a fan for years, and when I surprised her with the tickets, she was over the moon. The night of the concert, Jessica dressed up in a way that I hadn't seen in years. She looked stunning, wearing a little black dress that hugged her curves just right, and those high heels that made her legs look endless. I was proud to be walking into the venue with her on my arm. The energy in the arena was electric, and we found our seats near the front, thanks to the VIP tickets I had splurged on. The concert was everything Jessica had hoped for and more. Bobby Starr was in top form, belting out hit after hit. Jessica was completely enthralled, screaming and dancing along to every song. I was having a great time, too, until the moment that changed everything. During one of the breaks between songs, a roadie came up to us and handed Jessica a note. Her eyes widened as she read it, and she quickly stuffed it into her purse. I asked her what it was, but she brushed it off, saying it was nothing important. I didn't think much of it at the time, figuring it was just some fan club thing. After the concert, Jessica suggested we go backstage. Apparently, the note was an invitation for a VIP meet and greet with Bobby Starr himself. I was thrilled for her. How often do you get to meet your idol? We were ushered backstage, and soon enough there he was, Bobby Starr, larger than life, and just as charismatic up close. Jessica was starstruck, and Bobby seemed to take an immediate liking to her. He was charming and flirty, and Jessica was eating it up. I was happy for her, seeing her so excited. Bobby invited us to join him at an after-party he was hosting at his hotel. Jessica looked at me with those pleading eyes, and I could not say no. The party was wild. There were celebrities, industry people, and an endless supply of alcohol. I tried to keep up, but I was out of my depth. After a while, I noticed Jessica had disappeared. I wandered through the crowded suite looking for her, but she was nowhere to be found. I asked around, but no one had seen her. I finally found her in one of the private rooms, sitting on a couch with Bobby Starr, looking a bit too cozy. Bobby gave me a knowing smile and excused himself, leaving us alone. Jessica was a bit tipsy and giggling like a schoolgirl. I didn't want to ruin her night, so I suggested we head home. She agreed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The drive home was quiet. Jessica was unusually silent, and I was too lost in my thoughts to make conversation. When we got home, she went straight to bed. I stayed up, trying to piece together what had happened. My mind was racing, and I couldn't see sleep. A few days later, I found out the truth. Jessica had been texting Bobby Starr, and the meet and greet wasn't the first time they had communicated. It turned out she had gone back to his hotel room after I left the party. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My wife had cheated on me with Bobby Starr. Confronting her was one of the hardest things I've ever done. When I told her I knew, she didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she looked me in the eye and said, "He is a legend. Honey, you should be happy to be second to him." Her words stung more than I could have imagined. I was ready to tear her apart, but instead I decided to take my revenge in a more devious way. This wasn't tea over, not by a long shot. I spent the next few days in a haze trying to process what had happened. I couldn't believe that Jessica, my wife of 5 years, had betrayed me like this. The house felt empty, cold, and unwelcoming, even though she was still there, going about her daily routine as if nothing had happened. I avoided her as much as possible, but when I couldn't see, our conversations were terse and strained. I was plotting my revenge, but I had to be smart about it. I wanted her to feel the same pain and humiliation that she had inflicted on me, but I needed to take my time and make sure every detail was perfect. One evening, as I was sitting in the living room, Jessica came in and sat down across from me. "We need to talk," she said, her voice unusually soft. I looked up, meeting her gaze with a cold stare. "About what?" I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "About what happened. I know you are angry, and you have every right to be, but we can go on like this. We need to figure out what we are going to do." I clenched my jaw, struggling to keep my composure. "There's nothing to figure out. You made your choice when you decided to sleep with Bobby Starr." Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel any sympathy. "It was a mistake," she said, her voice breaking. I was caught up in the moment. It didn't mean anything. I laughed bitterly. Didn't mean anything? You slept with another man, Jessica. How am I supposed to believe it didn't mean anything? She reached out, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. Please, let's just talk about this. We can go to counseling, try to work through it. I don't want to lose you. I stood up, unable to listen to her excuses any longer. It's too late for that. You already lost me the moment you decided to betray me. I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing on the couch. Over the next few weeks, I started putting my plan into motion. I hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on Jessica and Bobby Starr. I wanted to know every detail of their affair, every text message, every call, every meeting. I wanted to have solid evidence to use against her. While the investigator was doing his work, I started making other preparations. I changed the passwords to all our joint accounts and moved most of our money into an account she couldn't access. I also started quietly gathering evidence of her infidelity, just in case I needed it for the divorce proceedings. During this time, I kept up the facade of trying to make things work. I agreed to go to counseling with Jessica, even though I had no intention of actually salvaging our marriage. I wanted her to believe that I was willing to forgive her so she wouldn't suspect what I was really up to. Counseling was a joke. Jessica cried and pleaded for my forgiveness, while I pretended to be the understanding husband, willing to work through our issues. All the while, I was counting down the days until I could finally execute my plan. The private investigator came through with more information than I could have hoped for. He had pictures of Jessica and Bobby together, copies of their text messages, and even a recording of a phone call where they talked about their night together. It was everything I needed to blow her world apart. With the evidence in hand, I started planning my next move. I decided to throw a party, inviting all our friends and family. I wanted everyone to be there when I revealed Jessica as betrayal. It was going to be a night she would never forget. The day of the party arrived, and Jessica seemed genuinely happy for the first time in weeks. She was laughing and chatting with our guests, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I watched her from across the room, feeling a mix of anger and anticipation. As the evening went on, I waited for the right moment. When everyone was gathered in the living room, I cleared my throat and called for their attention. Thank you all for coming tonight. I began, my heart pounding in my chest. There's something I need to share with you all. Jessica looked at me, confusion and fear flickering across her face. What is it, honey? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I took a deep breath and pulled out the folder containing all the evidence the investigator had gathered. I recently found out that my loving wife has been cheating on me, with none other than Bobby Starr. Gasps and whispers filled the room as I handed out copies of the pictures and text messages. Jessica's face turned pale, and she started to protest, but I cut her off. Save it, Jessica. Everyone here deserves to know the truth. Tears streamed down her face as she looked around at our friends and family, seeing the shock and disappointment in their eyes. Please, can we talk about this privately? She begged, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, feeling a grim satisfaction. No, Jessica. This is exactly what you deserve. I want everyone to see you for who you really are. As I watched her crumble under the weight of her own actions, I knew that this was only the beginning. My revenge was far from over, and I was going to make sure she paid for every moment of pain and betrayal she had caused me. The party ended in chaos. Jessica fled the scene in tears, our friends and family staring at me in shock and confusion. Some tried to comfort her, while others confronted me, demanding to know why I had chosen such a public venue for the revelation. I didn't care. The damage was done, and the seeds of doubt and disgust were planted. Once everyone had left, I sat alone in the living room, the remnants of the party scattered around me. The adrenaline from the Night S event slowly wore off, leaving me with a hollow feeling. I knew I had taken the first step in my plan, but there was still so much more to do. The next morning, Jessica was nowhere to be found. Her car was gone, and she hadn't left a note. Part of me was relieved not to face her, but another part felt a twinge of guilt. Despite everything, she had been a significant part of my life. Shaking off the sentiment, I focused on the task at hand. I began methodically dismantling our life together. First, I called the bank to finalize the changes I made to our accounts, ensuring Jessica had no access to our joint funds. Then, I contacted my lawyer to start the divorce proceedings, providing him with the evidence of her infidelity. The lawyer assured me that with such damning proof, the divorce would be swift and in my favor. Next, I began the process of selling our house. It held too many memories, and I couldn't stand the thought of living there any longer. I also reached out to a few real estate agents to find a new place to live somewhere smaller and more manageable where I could start fresh. As the days turned into weeks, Jessica tried to contact me multiple times. She left tearful voicemails and sent long apologetic text messages, but I ignored them all. I was determined to see my plan through without faltering. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal without any chance of reconciliation. Meanwhile, word of our public fallout spread like wildfire through our social circles. Friends who had initially supported Jessica began to distance themselves as the details of her affair became more widely known. Bobby Star S. involvement added an element of scandal that people couldn't resist gossiping about. Jessica S.'s reputation was in tatters, and she soon found herself isolated and alone. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Hesitant, I answered, only to hear Bobby Star S.'s voice on the other end. "Hey man, can we talk?" he said, sounding surprisingly contrite. "What do you want, Bobby?" I replied, my voice cold. "I just want to clear the air. I didn't know she was married when we first hooked up. By the time I found out, it was too late. I'm really sorry for what happened." "Your apology means nothing to me," I snapped. "You're just as guilty as she is." "I get that," he said quietly. "But I want to make it right. If there's anything I can do," I thought for a moment, a new idea forming in my mind. "Actually, there is something you can do. I want you to publicly admit to the affair. Tell the whole world what you did and how it ruined my marriage." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I don't know if I can do that. My career, your career," I interrupted, anger boiling over. "You think I care about your career? You ruined my life, and now you're worried about your image. Either you do this or I release everything I have to the press. Your choice." Bobby sighed heavily. "Fine, I'll do it. Just give me some time. Time is the one thing you don't have, Bobby. Make it happen and make it happen fast." A few days later, Bobby held a press conference. He confessed to the affair, apologizing publicly to his fans and to me. The media frenzy was intense, and Bobby S.'s reputation took a severe hit. Jessica S.'s name was dragged through the mud as well, and she soon lost her job due to the negative publicity. With Bobby S.'s confession and the ongoing legal proceedings, Jessica S.'s life continued to unravel. She moved in with a friend, but even that didn't last long as the constant media attention became too much for anyone to handle. Eventually, she was forced to leave town to escape the relentless scrutiny. I watched from afar as Jessica S.'s world crumbled around her. The satisfaction I felt was tempered by the realization that I had become a person I barely recognized. The revenge had consumed me, and while it provided a temporary sense of justice, it didn't fill the void left by her betrayal. As I stood in my new, smaller apartment, surrounded by unfamiliar furniture and walls that held no memories, I wondered if I had truly won. Jessica was gone, her reputation destroyed, but at what cost? I had lost myself in the process, and the man I had become was a stranger even to me. Despite these doubts, I knew there was no turning back. The plan was still in motion, and I was committed to seeing it through to the bitter end. I would ensure that Jessica paid for her actions, no matter the personal cost. This was my path now, and I would walk it alone. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and media attention. Jessica had fled to a different city trying to escape the relentless spotlight, but it was clear she couldn't run from the consequences of her actions. Bobby Star S.'s career was in freefall, and the scandal had become tabloid fodder, feeding the public as insatiable hunger for drama. One evening, as I sat in my new apartment, the phone rang. It was my lawyer, John. "Good news," he said, his tone upbeat. "The divorce is finalized. Given the circumstances, you have been granted full control of your assets, and Jessica S. alimony request has been denied." She asked left with nothing. I thanked John and hung up, feeling a mix of relief and emptiness. The legal battle was over, and on paper I had won, but the hollow feeling in my chest remained. Despite everything, I couldn't shake the lingering sense of loss. A few days later, I decided to visit a local bar to celebrate my legal victory. As I nursed my drink, I overheard a conversation between two men at the next table. They were talking about the scandal, rehashing all the sordid details with a mixture of amusement and pity. I listened in silence, feeling a strange detachment from the story that was once my life. That guy must be devastated. One of them said, shaking his head, "I mean, finding out your wife cheated on you with a rock star? That brutal." "Yeah," the other agreed, "but at least he got his revenge." "Did you hear about what he did to her?" she asked, ruined. I took a sip of my drink, their words echoing in my mind. It was true I had ruined Jessica S.'s life, but instead of feeling triumphant, I felt a deep, gnawing emptiness. As I left the bar, I realized that revenge had consumed me, turning me into someone I didn't recognize. I needed to find a way to move forward, to reclaim my life and my sense of self. I couldn't let Jessica S.'s betrayal define me any longer. The next morning, I made an appointment with a therapist. I knew I needed help to process my feelings and find a way to rebuild my life. Dr. Evans, a kind and empathetic woman, listened patiently as I poured out my story. "It sounds like you've been through a lot," she said softly. "Revenge might have provided a temporary sense of satisfaction, but it hasn't healed the deeper wounds." I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. I thought ruining her life would make me feel better, but it hasn't TT. I am still angry, still hurt. Dr. Evans leaned forward, her eyes filled with understanding. "Healing takes time, and it's a process. You need to focus on yourself now, on finding peace and rebuilding your life. It is okay to let go of the anger and pain." Over the next few months, I dedicated myself to therapy and self-care. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and began to explore who I was outside of my marriage and the betrayal. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. One day, while browsing a local bookstore, I bumped into an old friend from college, Emily. We hadn't seen each other in years, but we quickly fell back into the easy camaraderie we once shared. We exchanged numbers and started meeting up for coffee and long walks in the park. Emily was a breath of fresh air. She listened without judgment, offering support and encouragement as I navigated my way through the aftermath of my marriage. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy. One evening, after a particularly good day, I decided to call Jessica. It was time to close that chapter of my life for good. When she answered, her voice was hesitant and filled with regret. "Hello, Jessica," I began, my voice steady. "I just wanted to say that I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. Holding on to the anger and pain has only hurt me. I need to let it go and move on." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I am so sorry for everything I did. I never meant to hurt you." "I know," I replied, surprising myself with the sincerity in my voice, "but it is time for both of us to move on. I wish you well, Jessica. Goodbye." As I hung up the phone, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The chapter of my life defined by betrayal and revenge was finally closed. I could breathe again, free from the burden of anger and pain. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I grew closer. What started as a rekindled friendship blossomed into something more. She brought light and laughter into my life, helping me to see that there was still joy to be found, even after the darkest of times. One evening, as we walked along the beach hand in hand, I realized that I had found something I thought I had lost: forever hope. Emily looked at me, her eyes filled with warmth and love, and I knew that despite everything, I had been given a second chance at happiness. "Thank you," I whispered, squeezing her hand, "for everything." She smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You deserve to be happy, and I am so glad I can be a part of that." As we watched the sun set over the ocean, I felt a deep sense of peace. The past was behind me, and the future stretched out before me, filled with endless possibilities. For the first time in a long while, I was truly excited to see where the journey would take me. Emily and I continued to grow closer, our bond deepening with each passing day. She was patient and understanding, never pushing me to move faster than I was comfortable with. Her kindness and warmth were like a balm to my wounded heart, helping me to heal and rediscover the joy in life. One sunny afternoon, Emily and I decided to go hiking. The trail was challenging but beautiful, winding through dense forests and offering stunning views of the mountains. As we reached a particularly scenic overlook, we sat down to catch our breath and enjoy the view. "This place is amazing," Emily said, her eyes shining with excitement. "I can't believe I've lived here all my life and never been up here." I smiled, feeling a sense of contentment that had been absent for far too long. "I'm glad we decided to come. It's nice to get away from everything and just be in nature." We sat in companionable silence for a while, soaking in the beauty around us. Then, out of the blue, Emily turned to me, her expression serious. "Derek, I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat, but I nodded, encouraging her to continue. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes locked onto mine. "I've been thinking a lot about us and where we are going. I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush you, but I need you to know that I am all in. I want to be with you, Derek, completely." I felt a surge of emotions, love, fear, hope, all swirling together. "Emily, She placed a finger on my lips, stopping me. "You don't have to say anything right now. Just know that I am here for you, no matter what." I took her hand in mine, squeezing it gently. "Thank you, Emily. You mean more to me than you will ever know. I'm just scared. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of making the same mistakes." She nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "I get it, but you don't have to be afraid. We'll take it one day at a time, together." As we sat there hand in hand, I felt a sense of clarity. I realized that I didn't want to let fear control my life anymore. I wanted to embrace this new beginning, to open myself up to the possibility of love and happiness again. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I grew even closer. We spent our weekends exploring new places, trying out new activities, and simply enjoying each other's company. I started to see a future with her, a future that was bright and full of promise. One evening, as we were having dinner at my apartment, I felt a sudden urge to share something with her. "Emily, there's something I've been thinking about a lot lately." She looked up from her plate, curiosity in her eyes. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. "I think it's time for me to let go of the past completely, to truly move on. And I want to do that with you." Her eyes softened, and she reached across the table to take my hand. "Derek, I'd be honored to be a part of your new beginning." With her support, I took the final steps to close the chapter of my life that had been defined by betrayal and revenge. I sold the last of the shared assets that had tied me to Jessica, and I started focusing on my future with Emily. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to a small beach town we had both heard great things about. It was a picturesque place with quaint shops, friendly locales, and beautiful ocean views. We rented a cozy little cottage near the beach and spent our days exploring and our evenings watching the sunset over the water. On the last night of our trip, we took a walk along the beach, the waves gently lapping at our feet. As we walked, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't felt in a long time. "Emily," I said, stopping and turning to face her, "I want you to know how much you mean to me. You've brought so much light and happiness into my life, and I can't imagine my future without you." Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "Derek, you've forgiven me so much joy too. I love you." "I love you too," I said, pulling her into a tight embrace, "and I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me." We stood there for a long time, holding each other and watching the waves crash against the shore. In that moment, I knew that I had finally found the happiness and peace I had been searching for. Back in the real world, life began to settle into a new, comfortable routine. Emily and I decided to move in together, finding a charming apartment in a neighborhood we both loved. It felt like a fresh start in every sense of the word. One day, as we were unpacking boxes and setting up our new home, I came across an old photo album. It was filled with pictures of Jessica and me from happier times. I hesitated for a moment, then showed it to Emily. "These are from my life with Jessica," I said, my voice tinged with a mix of nostalgia and sadness. Emily looked through the photos, her expression thoughtful. You had some good times, didn't you? I nodded, feeling a pang of regret. Yeah, we did, but it's all in the past now. She closed the album and placed it on a shelf. You don't have to forget your past, Derek. It's a part of who you are, but it doesn't define you. You have a new future now, and I am so excited to be a part of it. Her words were exactly what I needed to hear. I realized that my past with Jessica would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to control my future. I had the power to create a new life, filled with love and happiness with Emily by my side. As we finished unpacking and settled into our new home, I felt a sense of contentment and hope that I hadn't felt in years. The pain and betrayal were behind me, and a bright, promising future lay ahead. Life with Emily was everything I could have hoped for and more. We spent our days working hard at our respective jobs and our evenings and weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants and spending time with friends. Our relationship was strong, built on trust and mutual respect, and I felt happier than I had in a long time. One evening, as we were settling in for a quiet night at home, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. Curiosity piqued. I opened it and found a message that sent a chill down my spine. Derek, it asked Jessica. I need to talk to you, it asked urgent. My heart pounded as I stared at the message. Emily noticed my reaction and looked at me with concern. Is everything okay? I hesitated, then handed her the phone. It asked Jessica. She says she needs to talk to me, Emily asked. Brow furrowed as she read the message. What do you think she wants? I don't know, I admitted, but I guess I should find out. Emily nodded, her expression supportive but wary. Just be careful, okay? You don't owe her anything. I texted Jessica back, agreeing to meet her the next day at a coffee shop. I spent the rest of the evening feeling a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. What could she possibly want after all this time? The next day I arrived at the coffee shop early, my mind racing with possibilities. When Jessica walked in, she looked different, tired, worn out, a shadow of the confident woman I had once known. She spotted me and approached hesitantly. Hi, Derek, she said softly, her voice tinged with nervousness. Hi, Jessica, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. What do you want to talk about? She sat down across from me, her hands trembling slightly. First, I want to apologize again for everything I did. I know I hurt you deeply and I can never make up for that, but that's not why I am here. I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. She took a deep breath. I am in trouble, Derek. After everything that happened, I lost my job, my friends, everything. I moved to a new city to start over, but it's been so hard. And now I'm pregnant. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Pregnant, I echoed, struggling to process the information. Is it Bobby S? She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, it is his, but he's completely cut me off. He wants nothing to do with me or the baby. I am all alone and I don't know what to do. I stared at her, a whirlwind of emotions raging inside me. Anger, pity, confusion. Jessica, I don't know what you expect me to do. We've both moved on. I am with someone else now. I know, she said, her voice breaking. And I don't want to disrupt your life. I need help. I don't know where else to turn. I took a deep breath, trying to collect my thoughts. Despite everything she had done, I couldn't ignore her plea for help. What do you need? She wiped her tears and looked at me gratefully. I just need some support, financially and emotionally. I have no one else to turn to. I thought about Emily and how supportive she had been through everything. I knew this was a conversation we needed to have together. I can promise anything right now, Jessica. I need to talk to Emily about this. Jessica nodded, looking relieved that I hadn't outright refused. Thank you, Derek. I understand. We parted ways and I drove home in a daze. When I walked into our apartment, Emily was waiting for me, her eyes filled with concern. How did it go? She asked gently. I sat down and recounted the conversation, watching as Emily's expression shifted from concern to shock. Pregnant? She repeated, her voice incredulous. And she wants your help? I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I don't know what to do, Emily. I feel like I can just ignore her, but I don't want this to affect us. Emily sat quietly for a moment, processing everything. Then she took my hand in hers, her eyes steady and calm. Derek, you're a good person. I know you want to help her, and I understand why. but we need to set boundaries. We can offer her some support, but we can't let this take over our lives." Her words brought a sense of clarity. "You are right. We all help her, but we need to protect our own relationship too." Over the next few weeks, Emily and I worked together to provide Jessica with some financial assistance and emotional support. We helped her find a stable place to live and connected her with resources for single mothers. It was a delicate balance, but with Emily's unwavering support, we managed to navigate the situation without letting it disrupt our lives. Jessica was grateful for the help, and slowly she began to rebuild her life. She found a job and started attending prenatal classes. While our interactions remained limited and respectful, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. By helping her, I was finally able to let go of the lingering resentment and anger. Emily and I continued to grow stronger together, our bond deepening with each challenge we faced. The unexpected turn in our lives had brought us closer, and I knew that with her by my side, we could handle anything that came our way. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch, Emily turned to me with a smile. "You know, Derek, I'm proud of you. You've come so far and you're an amazing person." I smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I couldn't have done it without you, Emily. You're my rock." As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that despite the twists and turns, life had led me to a place of true happiness and contentment. The past was behind me, and the future, with Emily by my side, was bright and full of promise. Life began to settle into a comfortable routine once more. Jessica was on her way to rebuilding her life, and Emily and I were growing closer by the day. The bond we had was unlike anything I had experienced before. It was built on trust, mutual respect, and genuine affection. I finally felt like I was moving forward. One Saturday morning, Emily and I decided to visit a local farmer's market. It was a beautiful day, the sun shining brightly, and the air filled with the sense of fresh produce and flowers. As we strolled through the market, hand in hand, we talked about everything and nothing. "Look at these strawberries," Emily said, picking up a carton and examining them closely. "They were perfect for that dessert you love." I smiled, feeling a rush of affection for her. "You mean the one you make so perfectly every time?" She laughed, nudging me playfully. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Derek." As we made our way through the market, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out to see a text from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat as I opened the message. "Derek, it's Bobby. We need to talk. It is important." I stared at the message, a mix of anger and curiosity swirling within me. Emily noticed my reaction and looked at me with concern. "What is it?" "It's Bobby," I said, showing her the message. "He wants to talk." Her eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "Do you want to meet him?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think I should. Maybe it's time to put all of this behind me once and for all." Emily squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Whatever you decide, I am here for you." I texted Bobby back, agreeing to meet him that afternoon at a nearby cafe. As the time approached, my nerves began to fray. Emily gave me a hug before I left, her support giving me the strength to face whatever was coming. When I arrived at the cafe, Bobby was already there, sitting at a corner table. He looked different, more subdued and less confident than the last time I had seen him. He stood up as I approached, extending his hand. "Thanks for meeting me, Derek," he said, his tone sincere. I shook his hand, though my feelings were conflicted. "What do you want, Bobby?" He motioned for me to sit, and we both took a seat. I wanted to apologize again for everything that happened. I know I have said it before, but I need you to know how truly sorry I am. I studied his face, searching for any hint of insincerity, but all I saw was genuine regret. "I appreciate that," I said cautiously. "But what is this really about?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been trying to make amends for my past mistakes. Part of that is making things right with you and Jessica. I want to help her in the baby in any way I can." The mention of the baby brought a wave of emotion. "Jessica's doing better now," I said. "She is rebuilding her life, but she could probably use your support." Bobby nodded, relief washing over his face. "I have been in contact with her, and we've been talking about co-parenting. I just wanted to make sure you were okay with it. I don't know what I want to cause any more problems." I took a deep breath, realizing that this conversation was another step toward closure. As long as you rest in Seer and you are there for her and the baby, I'm okay with it. Just Don to hurt her again. He looked me in the eye, his expression serious. I promised, Derek. I am committed to being a good father and making up for my mistakes. We talked for a while longer, discussing practicalities and how he planned to support Jessica. By the end of our conversation, I felt a surprising sense of relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted, and I could finally see a path forward without the shadows of the past haunting me. When I got home, Emily was waiting for me, her eyes filled with curiosity and concern. How did it go? It went well, I said, pulling her into a hug. He's genuinely sorry and wants to help Jessica and the baby. I think it's the closure I needed. Emily smiled, her eyes shining with pride. I'm so glad, Derek. You deserve to move on and be happy, and move on we did. Over the next few months, Emily and I continued to build our life together. We adopted a rescue dog named Max, who brought endless joy and laughter into our home. We spent weekends exploring new places, hiking, and trying out new recipes. Life was good, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a deep sense of peace. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch with Max curled up at our feet, Emily turned to me, a mischievous glint in her eye. You know, there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, what's that? She took a deep breath, her expression turning serious. I've been thinking a lot about the future, about us. I love you, Derek, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. My heart skipped a beat as I looked into her eyes, seeing the depth of her love and commitment. Emily, I feel the same way. You've brought so much happiness into my life, and I can imagine my future without you. She smiled, her eyes filling with tears. So what do you say? Should we take the next step? I pulled her into a tight embrace, my heart overflowing with love and gratitude. Yes, Emily, let's take the next step together. That night, as we lay in bed, talking about our dreams and plans for the future, I realized just how far I had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were behind me, replaced by a future filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. And with Emily by my side, I knew that anything was possible. The decision to move forward with Emily felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Our relationship had weathered storms, and we'd come out stronger on the other side. We spent the next few weeks discussing our future in more detail, making plans and dreaming about the life we wanted to build together. One sunny Saturday afternoon, we decided to take Max for a walk in a nearby park. As we strolled hand in hand, watching Max happily chase after squirrels, Emily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. You know, Derek, she began, I've been thinking about our future a lot. Have you ever considered buying a house together? The idea filled me with excitement. I'd love that, I replied, squeezing her hand. I think it's a great idea. Over the next few months, we started looking at houses. We toured several properties, each with its own unique charm, but none of them felt quite right. Then one day, we stumbled upon a quaint two-story house in a quiet neighborhood. It had a charming front porch, a spacious backyard for Max, and plenty of room for us to grow into. As we walked through the house, I could see the excitement in Emily's eyes. This is it, she whispered, squeezing my hand. I can feel it. I smiled, feeling the same sense of certainty. Me too. Let's make an offer. The process of buying the house was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. There were inspections, negotiations, and endless paperwork, but through it all, Emily and I supported each other. When we finally closed on the house and got the keys, it felt like a dream come true. Moving in was an adventure in itself. We spent days unpacking, arranging furniture, and making the house our own. Friends and family came over to help, and we hosted a small housewarming party to celebrate the beginning of this new chapter. One evening, after a long day of unpacking, Emily and I sat on the front porch watching the sunset. Max lay at our feet, content and tired from exploring his new home. This feels so right, Emily said, resting her head on my shoulder. I am so happy we found this place. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Me too. It's the perfect place for us to start our future. Life in our new home was everything we had hoped for and more. We quickly settled into a comfortable routine, enjoying the simple pleasures of everyday life. We cooked meals together, hosted friends for game nights, and spent lazy Sundays lounging in the backyard. One evening, as we were having dinner on the back patio, Emily looked at me with a serious expression. "There's something I've been thinking about a lot lately," she said, her voice gentle. "What is that?" I asked, curious. She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with love and determination. "I want to start a family with you, Derek. I know it's a big step, but I feel ready. What do you think?" Her words filled me with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Starting a family was a huge decision, but with Emily by my side, I knew it was something I wanted too. "I want that too," I said, taking her hand. "I can think of a better person to start a family with." Her eyes lit up with joy and she leaned in to kiss me. "I am so happy to hear that," she whispered against my lips. From that moment on, we started planning for our future family. We talked about everything from baby names to parenting styles, and the more we talked, the more excited we became. As we embarked on this new journey, we continued to build our life together, strengthening our bond and creating memories that would last a lifetime. The love and support we had for each other carried us through every challenge and celebrated every joy. One crisp autumn day, as we were taking a walk through a nearby nature trail, Emily stopped suddenly, her hand going to her stomach. "Derek," she said, her voice trembling with excitement, "I think I am pregnant." My heart skipped a beat as I looked at her, seeing the joy and hope in her eyes. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice filled with emotion. She nodded, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "I took a test this morning. It was positive." I pulled her into a tight embrace, my own eyes filling with tears. "This is amazing, Emily. I can't believe it." We stood there for a long time holding each other and reveling in the joy of the moment. It felt like the culmination of everything we had worked for and dreamed about. Our future was brighter than ever, and I knew that together we could face anything. The months that followed were a whirlwind of excitement and preparation. We decorated a nursery, attended prenatal classes, and celebrated every milestone together. Emily was glowing with happiness, and I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the life we were building. When the day finally came for our baby to be born, it was a beautiful, sunny morning. We rushed to the hospital, filled with a mix of nerves and anticipation. The labor was long and intense, but Emily was incredible, her strength and determination inspiring me every step of the way. Finally, after hours of hard work, our baby girl was born. The moment I held her in my arms, I felt an overwhelming surge of love and protectiveness. She was perfect, and I knew that I would do anything to keep her safe and happy. Emily and I named her Lily, and she quickly became the center of our world. Watching her grow and discover the world around her brought us endless joy. We cherished every moment, from her first smile to her first steps. As I stood in the nursery one evening, watching Lily sleep, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had led me to this moment. I had a loving partner, a beautiful home, and a precious daughter. Life was everything I had hoped for and more. Emily came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "She is so beautiful," she whispered, resting her head on my shoulder. I nodded, feeling a surge of love for both of them. "She is, and she is so lucky to have you as her mom." Emily smiled, kissing my cheek, "And she is lucky to have you as her dad." As we stood there watching our daughter sleep, I knew that our future was bright and full of endless possibilities. With Emily by my side, I felt ready to face anything and everything that life had in store for us. The past was behind us, and the future was ours to create. One beautiful moment at a time. Life with Emily and Lily was a dream come true. We spent our days filled with love and laughter, watching Lily grow and develop into a curious, energetic toddler. Our little family was thriving, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. But as with any journey, there were challenges ahead that would test our strength and resilience. One evening, as Emily and I were getting Lily ready for bed, she noticed a small lump on Lily's neck. "Derek, look at this," she said, her voice tinged with worry. I leaned in to examine it, feeling a knot of concern tightened in my stomach. "We should get this checked out," I said, trying to stay calm. The next day, we took Lily to the pediatrician, who referred us to a specialist for further tests. The waiting was excruciating, but we tried to stay positive for Lily's sock. When the results came back, our worst fears were confirmed. Lily had a rare form of childhood cancer. The news hit us like a ton of bricks. Emily and I held each other and cried, feeling a mixture of fear and helplessness. But amid the despair, we knew we had to be strong for Lily. We vowed to fight this battle together, supporting each other every step of the way. The next few months were a blur of hospital visits, treatments, and sleepless nights. Lily was a trooper, enduring the chemotherapy and hospital stays with remarkable bravery. Emily and I took turns staying with her, doing everything we could to keep her spirits up. We read her favorite stories, played games, and showered her with love and affection. Through it all, our bond grew stronger. We leaned on each other for support, finding strength in our love and determination to help Lily get better. Our friends and family rallied around us, offering their support and prayers, which gave us the extra strength we needed to keep going. One evening, as I sat by Lily's hospital bed holding her tiny hand, I felt a sense of clarity. "Emily," I said quietly, "no matter what happens, we'll get through this together. We have to believe that Lily will be okay." Emily nodded, her eyes filled with tears, but also with a fierce determination. "She will be Derek. She essified her just like us. We have to keep believing." As the weeks turned into months, Lily's condition gradually improved. Her doctors were optimistic, and we clung to that hope with everything we had. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we received the news we had been praying for. Lily's cancer was in remission. The relief and joy we felt were indescribable. We celebrated with our friends and family, grateful for the miracle that had brought our little girl back to us. Lily's strength and resilience had been an inspiration, and we knew we would never take a single moment for granted again. With Lily's health improving, we slowly began to return to a sense of normalcy. We moved back into our routine, filled with the simple joys of everyday life. We watched Lily play in the backyard, her laughter ringing out like music, and we felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the second chance we had been given. One sunny afternoon, as we sat on the porch watching Lily chase after Max, Emily turned to me with a smile. "You know, Derek, we've been through so much together, and I wouldn't trade any of it for the world." I nodded, feeling the same deep sense of appreciation. "Me neither. It's made us stronger, and it has shown us what is truly important." Emily leaned her head on my shoulder, her eyes shining with love. "I think at his time we officially became a family. What do you think?" My heart skipped a beat as I realized what she was suggesting. "Emily, are you saying what I think you're saying?" She smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Yes, Derek. Let's get married. Let's make this official." Tears of happiness filled my eyes as I pulled her into a tight embrace. "Yes, Emily, let's do it. Let's get married." We wasted no time in planning our wedding. We wanted it to be a celebration of our love and the journey we had been on together. Surrounded by our closest friends and family, we exchanged vows in a beautiful outdoor ceremony. Lily was our flower girl, and seeing her healthy and happy was the most precious gift we could have asked for. As Emily and I stood hand in hand looking into each other as eyes, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had faced unimaginable challenges and come out stronger on the other side. Our love had been tested and had triumphed, and now we were ready to embark on the next chapter of our lives together. The reception was a joyous celebration filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Our friends and family shared stories of our journey, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Emily and I danced under the stars, holding each other close and feeling the deep connection that had brought us together. As the night came to an end, we stood on the balcony of our honeymoon suite, looking out at the twinkling lights of the city below. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a profound sense of peace. "We did it, Derek," she whispered. "We made it through." "Yes, we did," I replied, kissing the top of her head, "and we'll keep making it through no matter what comes our way." With Lily healthy and happy, and our love stronger than ever, I knew that our future was bright. We had faced the darkest of times and come out into the light, and I was filled with a sense of hope and anticipation for the journey ahead. Together, we were unstoppable. And as we looked out at the world before us, I knew that with Emily and Lily by my side, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. Our love was our strength, and our family was our greatest treasure, and with that, we were ready to face whatever the future held.